Subaru comes to our screens again in the second part of this anime recap. This is the story of the idiot who gets to live the dream life of many anime viewers because he gets summoned into a fantasy world, but he doesn't last 13 seconds like my girlfriend's ex because he is killed almost immediately. He somehow manages to come back to life and start simping for the same girl who got him killed. Trust me, guys, it's even more ridiculous than I make it sound. Felt walked in graciously and came up to Reinhard. Then, without warning, threw a roundhouse kick at him. That's not very demure of her. Felt was yapping about not knowing why she was there. Subaru came up to her to try and console her, but she gave him a kick to the side as well. Call me crazy, but I think someone probably kicked her to the curb recently. Get it? 'Cause she's kicking everyone? Okay, not my best work. I'll do better. Moving on, the knight told her to come stand next to the other princesses. Reinhard placed an insignia in her hand, and it glowed, proving to everyone that she was, in fact, recognized as a potential candidate for the throne. Everyone gasped, but they were still adamant about accepting Felt as a princess. So, the Council of Wise Men asked Reinhard to explain how he discovered Felt, but as soon as he mentioned she wasn't of noble birth, everyone started throwing insults at her. Felt was obviously ready for the smoke, but Reinhard stepped in and stopped the whole thing. Once they were done with all that, the leader of the Imperial Knights asked the princesses to come forward and make their claims. Each of them had different views on how the kingdom should be ruled, but once it got to Felt, she straight up said she didn't want to be there. The wise men and congregation became furious, and for some reason started throwing shade at Emilia too for being a half-elf. Subaru wasn't about to let that slide, so he called the wise men out for being poop heads. They asked what his affiliation with Emilia was, and he told them he was her best knight. This didn't end well, because Julius called his bluff and exposed him for not being a proper knight. This made Emilia renounce him as her attendant, and he got kicked out. Man, that's tough. Just then, out of nowhere, a smokescreen appeared, and someone kidnapped Felt. Reinhard split the smoke in half to find that it was Rom. They were about to execute him, but Felt told them that she would run for the throne, so they let Rom off the hook. Felt was back in the selection for the throne, but she openly declared that she hates everything about the kingdom and plans to bring it down. Finally, someone with some guts to bring down the system. Let's go, Felt. Elsewhere, Julius issued a challenge to Subaru and was about to fight him. They used wooden swords and began fighting. A knight ran to tell the princesses about what was happening. Apparently, the fight was so heavily one-sided that they had to find someone to stop it. Wow, Subaru is really on a bad streak, and he looked even worse. Julius was fighting him literally with his hand behind his back and barely putting in any effort, but Subaru kept holding his ground. Eventually, Emilia got to the arena and yelled at Subaru to stop, but he used the slight moment to blind Julius. His efforts were in vain, though, because Julius cut him down anyway. When he came to, Emilia was right beside him. She told him that she would be leaving him in the capital. Subaru begged for forgiveness and told her he was doing it all for her, but Emilia wasn't hearing it. She was tired of him breaking promises and being selfish. Subaru had an emotional outburst, yelling about how she owed him so much. So Emilia decided to settle it for good and leave. After what happened with Emilia, Subaru used that anger and sadness to discipline himself and train with the sword. He trained rigorously for 3 days since he arrived at the abode of Crush, one of the candidates. After getting beaten up by the butler who was training him, he woke up in the lap of Rem. She had been with him the whole time. She consoled him and asked him to go with her to the town to get a change of scenery. They went the next day, and while they were out, Subaru bumped into the Apple shopkeeper. They were looking at the notice board with the 5 princess candidates. The shopkeeper criticized Emilia like everyone else had, and Subaru was livid about it. He started yelling at the shopkeeper, but the shopkeeper hit him with the reality of things, and Subaru quickly kept quiet. As long as people only saw Emilia as being from the same race as the witch, they would always criticize and hate her. Later that night, Subaru was going up the stairs, and he met Crush. She invited him for drinks while they stared at the stars. Okay, maybe things aren't so bad after all. My boy is about to get some from one of the princesses. Let's go, Subaru. They were on the balcony, sipping drinks and chilling. Crush offered Subaru a drink, but he refused. Ugh, I can already tell this doesn't go anywhere. What a waste of excitement. Felix then walks in on them, and they begin to advise Subaru to find something he can do to help Emilia. Subaru smirks in a very creepy way when he hears that. The next day, while he was training, the butler noticed his change in attitude, but that wasn't all. He noticed that Subaru had given up on becoming strong, so he saw no point in training him any further. Just then, Rem came to find Subaru. They went to the living room, and Rem told them that something was happening at the mansion. Subaru gave that creepy smirk again and told Rem that they had to leave. Crush said he could, but told him that she had a contractual agreement with Amelia about healing his magic gate, and if he should leave her house, he would be considered an enemy. Subaru got really pissed, but he still left anyway. Okay, what's going on with Bro? Why is he crashing out? On the way, Subaru wondered why Amelia didn't want them knowing what was going on, but after moving for a whole day, they stayed the night at a village. At night, Subaru couldn't sleep, and Rem couldn't either, so she came to his room. She cuddled up next to him and used a spell on him. She said she was healing his magic gate, but she was really just putting him to bed. She knew his love for Amelia would make him do something reckless, so she did it to protect him, but part of her wanted some of that love too. The next morning, Subaru was furious after he woke up and realized Rem had left him behind. He searched and found a carriage to take him to the mansion. When the carriage got there, the beast was too scared to continue, and it was right not to, because after Subaru ran into town, he met the bodies of the dead villagers everywhere. He went to the mansion, hoping to find the girls safe, but when he got to the mansion, all he saw was the corpse of Rem, stabbed in the head. His world had just been flipped on its head. Subaru couldn't believe what he was seeing. Neither could I. Who could possibly have done this to Rem? It's not like she's a pushover in battle either. He went further into the house to investigate, and he saw Ram and Petra's corpses too. And in a secret hallway covered in ice, he found a bunch of the assailants frozen in place. When he tried to reach for the door handle there, his fingers literally froze off, and before he knew it, his entire body did as well. His time leap got activated, and he was back in front of the apple shopkeeper. He saw Rem still alive and well and fell to his knees. Rem tried checking on him, but he hugged her and started laughing maniacally. His mental state was gone. I'm not even surprised. Seeing such a scene would mentally break anyone too. Rem brought him back to Crush's house to be treated, but even Felix had no idea what to do about him. And if Felix couldn't do it, no one in that household could. Rem opted to take him back home. She figured since he was periodically calling out Ram and Amelia's names, seeing them would help him recover. So they started their homeward journey. When they got to the domain of Rosewall, Rem noticed it was a bit too quiet. Suddenly, the head of their dragon beast was sliced off and their carriage crashed. It was those assailants Subaru saw last night. Rem didn't waste any time in killing them off, but while she was occupied, one of them ran off with Subaru. Subaru woke up in a cave to see a very weird man in front of him. His name was Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice told Subaru that he was a Sin Archbishop in the witch's cult, but Subaru was still out of it. One of the lackeys came to report to Beetlejuice that they had lost Rem and didn't know her whereabouts. Beetlejuice gave the lackey a beatdown, similar to what we saw a certain character do in a different anime. Basically, attempted murder. Beetlejuice told the rest of the lackeys to find Rem and bring him her head. Then Beetlejuice turned to Subaru to try and get some explanation out of him, but Subaru still couldn't bring himself to say anything. Suddenly, there was noise from the back. Rem had found her way to the cave and was mowing through the lackeys. She got pretty close to Subaru, but it wasn't enough. Beetlejuice used a strange power to hold her to the sky and twisted her limbs. Subaru saw this and started yelling angrily at Beetlejuice. He told him he would kill him, but Beetlejuice didn't pay him any mind. He just sent his lackeys back to work and left Subaru there to rot. Subaru kept screaming his lungs out, saying he would kill Beetlejuice. Then he heard a noise. It was Rem, dragging her body toward him. She broke his chains and told him to go on and live. Subaru took her body and walked to the Roswell mansion. When he got there, he saw the same scenery as last time. Ram dead by the kids, and the lackeys dead around her as well. And just when Subaru couldn't keep it together anymore, he saw a giant wolf burst out of the mansion. This wolf was apparently on demon time, because as soon as it noticed Subaru, it cut off his head. Subaru reset again, but this time when he turned to Rem, it looked like he was about to profess his love or something. However, that shopkeeper interrupted him, so he took Rem by the hand and walked with her. I hope that shopkeeper doesn't get some from his wife for 3 months. Rem told Subaru that the scent of the witch had grown stronger on him, so he told her to keep holding his hand to feel safe. When they got to Crush's mansion, Subaru sat everyone down and told them of the attack that was to happen in 3 days. Crush heard him out and gave the condition that if she helped, Amelia would drop out of the candidacy. But when Subaru agreed to her terms, she still refused to help. She told him that Amelia dropping out isn't really much to bargain with in the first place. Moreover, in all of his rambling, Subaru never once said he wanted to save Amelia. He only cared about killing the witch cult. So, in anger, he saw himself out of Crush's household. Rem was concerned for him, but Subaru was looking for someone he could count on. Reinhard was out of the country, so he decided to go ask Priscilla for help, while Rem went to the guard station. When he got to Priscilla's mansion, he explained the situation to her and asked for her help, but Priscilla refused as well. She did, however, commend him for his efforts, so she gave him a chance. She told him if he licked her feet, she would help him out. Subaru reluctantly agreed, and when he was about to do it, she kicked him so hard he probably broke his nose. She said that he had disgraced himself by doing that, and vowed to kill any camp he was a part of. Then, she threw him across the room and asked her knight to escort him out. What the hell? Didn't she tell him to do it in exchange for help? My gosh, women can be so unreasonably difficult. Subaru headed back to the market in search of help, but he couldn't find any. Just then, a little girl approached him and said he smelled of blood. The little girl pulled away, and the person who called her back was another candidate named Anastasia. They went to a restaurant to talk, and Subaru told her his predicament. He needed a ride back home, and Anastasia was willing to provide it, but she wanted information, which, unbeknownst to him, he had given away. She gave him a paper that would help him get a carriage, then she thanked him and told him that it was easy to get from him since all he does is want and nothing else. Subaru tried making a move at her, but the little girl from before already had him in range to be blown away. This isn't even fair. Anastasia had always planned to jump him if he acted stupid. These women are insane. Subaru and Rem entered the dragon carriage and headed home, but on their way, Subaru saw a familiar face from one of his past lives. So, he sat with them and offered them money in exchange for helping him save Amelia and the villagers. As they rode there, Rem asked Subaru to help her with the map. He brought it out and used his phone's flashlight to see better. But suddenly, he noticed there was a person missing, and when he looked up, he saw something terrifying. Subaru and the others were under attack by some creature moving at breakneck speed inside a fog. There was only one monster capable of such, the white whale. They kept maneuvering and trying to get out of the way, but the whale was persistent. So, Rem decided to sacrifice herself to make sure Subaru got to the mansion safely. Subaru begged her not to go and even hugged her tightly, but she knocked him out and told him she'd be watching over him always. When Subaru woke up, the carriage master, Otto, was still moving at full speed. Subaru asked him about Rem, and he told him about her sacrifice. He asked Otto to go back and save her, which was a very stupid idea. You're just gonna waste Rem's sacrifice like that? Otto hit him with a reality check and told him that not even a swordmaster was able to defeat it. But what happened next was very spooky. Subaru said something about Rem, and Otto asked who that was. What kind of sick joke is that? But it didn't look like Otto was faking it. He genuinely had no idea who Rem was. While they were arguing, the whale came back. Otto and Subaru kept wondering why the beast only chased them, but Subaru realized why. Turns out the whale is a beast, and it was drawn to Subaru. Once Subaru said this out loud, Otto pushed him off the cart and drove off without him. The whale attacked Subaru, and he ran for his life. Subaru came to a hilltop and just lay there, about to accept death. But surprisingly, the whale didn't finish him off. So, Subaru continued his journey toward the mansion, and along the way, he saw the dragon carriage. Apparently, Otto got killed eventually by the whale. Serves him right for betraying Subaru. I mean, how could you just throw him to the beast so quickly? Anyway, Subaru mounted the carriage and headed back into town. He was greeted by the kids, and he was happy that he changed something this time. He passed out and woke up in his old bed. Ram was right beside him, but for a split second, he thought it was Rem, and grabbed her hand. Ram insulted him as usual, but after their banter finished, Subaru laid the bad news on her. He told her about Rem's death and how he couldn't help her, but Ram told Subaru she didn't know who Rem was. Something strange is definitely going on. Subaru tried explaining to her, but Ram had no idea who Rem was. Nah, whoever is pulling the strings of this whole thing has to be some wicked, messed up person. Subaru tried checking Ram's room, but there was only one bed there. Ram told him to head back to his room and rest. But when has Subaru ever been known to listen to someone else? He went to meet Amelia and tried to get her to come with him, but she refused. Subaru then decided to tell her the whole truth, even if it kills him. As soon as he did, the hands came again to grab his heart, but this time they didn't. Instead, they killed Amelia. Subaru sat there in grief, and Beatrice walked in. He asked her to kill him, but she couldn't bring herself to, so she sent him far away from the house where he could die away from her eyes. As he got to the forest, Betelgeuse approached him and tried taking away Amelia's body, but Puck rained down ice bolts from the sky. He came for the smoke. Puck killed off the lackeys, and when Subaru tried to warn him, he just told him to be quiet. Betelgeuse used his shadow arms to hold Puck in place, but Puck broke free and started a blizzard. Betelgeuse started panicking and biting his fingers. He was bleeding out from everywhere blood could come out from. He quickly died, and soon after, Subaru died as well with maniacal laughter. When he got reset and saw Rem again, his heart didn't know what to do, so he skipped explanations and ran off with her. When they got to a balcony with a good view, Subaru asked Rem to run away with him. Hold up, what? So Subaru is changing teams now? I thought he was riding for Amelia. He told her that there was nothing they could do in the capital, so they had to leave. Rem was happy. She even painted out a scenario where they ended up getting married and settling down with kids in a faraway land, but she still said no. She knew that if they left together, a part of Subaru would still remain in the capital. Subaru yelled out at her and began airing out his frustrations again. Poor guy, he has really been going through it, from embarrassing himself at the palace to seeing Amelia and Rem die multiple times. Rem suggested they stay and figure something else out. She knew Subaru wasn't the kind of person to abandon something halfway, especially not people he cared about. Subaru didn't believe her. He kept convincing himself that he was a failure at everything he did and only ever made excuses to get by. He told her about how he was a shut-in back in his old world, how he had so much free time to do something with his life, but didn't. He just wasted his life away until he got to this new world, and now he's being useless here again. Wow. As much as I don't like self-deprecation, he's not exactly lying about all these things. So, yeah. He stopped yapping for a second and Rem began talking. She mentioned all the things she loved about Subaru, and also that she loved him too. Subaru told her she didn't know him at all, but Rem didn't let him even continue. She cried and told him that he had no idea how he had saved her. Back in the forest, when he brought her back to her senses, when he sacrificed himself over and over to make sure she was safe, and he still came back to her and gave her words of affirmation. He gave her life meaning again, and that was something she would never forget. She held Subaru close to her chest and comforted him. She called him her hero and told him that even though everyone wouldn't listen to him and he couldn't forgive himself, she would be there for him instead and love him. Subaru finally stood up and asked for her help. He said he loved Amelia and was going to do whatever it took to make sure he saved her. It's crazy, because he just rejected Rem and asked for her help in the same sentence. But she also rejected his proposal earlier, so I guess this makes them even. They're so cute together. I think I might start rooting for them. And with that, Subaru took Rem by the hand and gave his word to do things right as he starts his story from zero. Subaru called an audience with Krush and proposed an alliance with Amelia's camp in exchange for giving Krush the time and location of the white whale's next appearance. Hearing the name of the white whale made the butler very uneasy. Krush wondered why Subaru brought up the white whale so suddenly, but Subaru had already calculated that he needed to add something worth bargaining for if he hoped to get Krush on his side. Krush was still iffy about agreeing, but then Anastasia walked in and joined the meeting. Turns out, Subaru had made agreements with both Anastasia and Russell. Russell told Krush that he got a deal from Subaru and couldn't ignore it. Subaru had also let Anastasia in on it too, since she was hunting for the white whale as well. With all these factors laid out, Krush decided to trust Subaru and agreed to the alliance. Looks like Subaru has learned a lot from his mistakes in his previous lives. That night, all of Krush's soldiers started making preparations for the battle tomorrow. Subaru wasn't much help since he wasn't a soldier, so he just went to bed. The next day, everyone was hyping themselves up to go to battle. Subaru ran into Anastasia's head of the army. He was known as the Iron Fang. The guy was towering over Subaru so much it was just embarrassing. Krush came along, and Subaru noticed she was also going to fight. She asked him why he was going to fight as well, and he told her that he could lure the whale out and then give the others a chance to attack. Not the best attack strategy, but Subaru isn't exactly known for his genius intellect. So, Krush rallied the troops with a few words and they set out to slay the whale. Imagine the whale doesn't show up after all this preparation. Subaru would be tortured for the rest of his life. They'd make sure he never died. Yikes, that sounds horrifying. Anyway, they headed out, and it wasn't long before they made it to the flugel tree. When they made camp there, Subaru did some sightseeing and noticed that there were a bunch of names engraved in the tree. So he asked Rem to give him a chisel so he could do the same. Rem asked if Subaru was okay with using himself as bait for the whale, but he told her that this was the only way he could compensate for being useless. Rem totally disagreed and told Subaru that he's wonderful and that she was going to believe in him with all her heart. You know, I'm really leaning more toward Rem now. Maybe that idea to run away isn't so bad after all. Rem and Subaru went went to meet the butler, Wilhelm. They told him that they had heard about his quest for revenge against the whale for taking his wife, but Wilhelm told them not to think too much of it. Rem asked if he loved his wife, and Wilhelm told them that he did, even now, as she was dead. So, Subaru promised to help him make sure he got his revenge. Some time had passed, and it was almost time for the whale to show up. Once Subaru's phone began ringing, they all looked around for the monster, and after a couple of seconds for dramatic effect, the whale finally showed up. Without hesitation, Subaru yelled out to the troops, and Rem attacked the whale. This made Crush all pumped up, and she led the troops to war. The troops marched forward to the white whale. While Subaru and Rem were advancing, they launched a device called the Night Banisher. It lived up to its name because it was so bright that it quite literally banished the night. The whale recovered from the blinding lights and saw Subaru riding away. It immediately went to attack him, but that was its mistake. Crush threw an attack at it, and the rest of the troops joined in. After a couple of bombardments, Wilhelm himself stood in front of the beast and began an assault of his own. He mounted the beast and pierced it from the top. Then he ran along its body while slashing it from every angle imaginable. This sounds like an ecchi manga all of a sudden, but moving on. Wilhelm finished his attack and came down from the beast. The rest of the troops began their attacks as well, from Anastasia's troops piercing it physically to the mages firing off powerful spells at it. It was a crazy assault, but alas, it wasn't enough to bring the whale to the ground. The Iron Fang immediately led another team to attack the whale, but Wilhelm was already back on top, cutting the whale open. Now that's a man with a serious grudge. He even cut out its eye and jumped down to stab it again. Overkill much? At this point, the whale had had enough. It let out such a horrendous scream, and the color of its eye changed. Before everyone knew it, the whale covered the area in a white fog. It took out troops before they could even see it coming. Crush cut through the fog and regrouped with the troops, but Subaru noticed something. There was a strong force blowing through the fog, and anyone who got hit by it was wiped from existence. That's insane. Subaru thought about what he could do and decided to become bait to lure the creature away. He used the trick of trying to talk about his time leap to lure the beast to him. A very reckless tactic, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The trick worked, and they managed to lure the whale to them, but the whale couldn't get its way, and the rest of the troops ended up catching it and doing some serious damage to it, even cutting off its tail. But Wilhelm noticed something was off. He acknowledged that the whale was sturdy, but he couldn't imagine his wife ever being killed by it. But he wasn't given time to think about all that. The whale threw him off its back and he landed on his ride. Then suddenly, the whale appeared from above and separated them with another attack. Wilhelm got separated from the rest of the troops, and before he knew it, he was being eaten whole by the whale. As if that wasn't bad enough, as Subaru and Rem kept riding, the Iron Fang pushed them out of the way of another attack by the whale. How is the whale able to attack so quickly after taking all that damage? Well, the answer came in the worst possible way. Subaru looked up and saw not one, but 3 white whales. Lord have mercy on these poor souls. Everyone was starting to lose hope after seeing Wilhelm get eaten, but Subaru refused to sink into despair. He rallied the troops and told them to keep attacking so they could rescue Wilhelm. Crush came up to Subaru and asked for his thoughts about the situation. He said, as long as Rem fights well, they have a chance to save Wilhelm. She asked about the whales and why no one knew there were 3 until now. They concluded that there was a trick to it and started racking their brains. In the meantime, everyone scrambled to fight it off. They even managed to get Wilhelm free. While Subaru was riding and thinking about the trick, Anastasia's second commander came up to him to tell him that the Iron Fang, Ricardo, was being healed as they spoke and would soon join in the fight. They delivered a message from Ricardo to Subaru, and as soon as he heard it, he had a Jimmy Neutron brain blast. He went to Crush and told her that the whale basically did shadow clone jutsu and split itself into 3. With this information, it still didn't remove the threat of the whale. So Subaru came up with a plan of attack. Crush thought it was reckless and crazy, but so was everyone there. I mean, they're literally fighting a whale that can wipe you from existence and can fly. That just screams nightmare fuel. Crush agreed to Subaru's crazy plan, and they started by holding off the 2 clones. Crush blocked a clone from attacking the healers, and in the same breath, rallied her troops to keep fighting, especially since Subaru, the weakest of them there, was still pushing forward regardless of the situation. The troops got their second win and started fighting back. That was when Subaru executed his reckless plan. He used an ice bolt from Rem to get on top of the whale, and once he got the whale's attention, he fell down and used his trick to lure it toward him. As the whale was about to hit, Rem pulled Subaru away, and the troops blew up the base of the tree to fall on the whale. I can't believe they actually cut down the tree. That thing looked bigger than me when I see a Megan Thee Stallion performance, huge and strong as steel. As the tree fell and pinned the whale in place, Wilhelm approached it once more and started a final rush attack on it. With a final strike to its head and a declaration of love, the troops had defeated the white whale. As the healers tended to the wounded, Krush spoke to Subaru and thanked him for all that he did. She even called him the hero that slayed the white whale, and told him that there were moments when his actions made her heart flutter a little. Well, color me surprised. Even on the battlefield, Subaru keeps rizzing these ladies up. Krush took the injured with her back to the capital and gave Subaru half of her troops to aid him in defeating the witch's cult. Ricardo stayed behind too. The army was looking very strong, and Subaru actually thought things could work out. But his mood changed immediately when he saw Julius coming with the reinforcements. Why is he here? Man, this is going to be one hell of a ride. After Subaru and Julius exchanged retorts, they managed to sit down together as Subaru briefed them for the next battle. He told them he had faced the witch's cult before, and they weren't to be taken lightly, like they didn't know that already. Wilhelm confirmed that while he had no concrete proof, he had heard rumors of the witch's cult making moves, and that gave Subaru's words credibility. So, after a few words of encouragement, Subaru and the troops headed for the Roswell mansion. On the way there, Julius came to Subaru's side and thanked him for slaying the white whale. Apparently, killing it had been a dire wish of the Imperial Knights for so long. So, he felt indebted to Subaru, and also apologized for belittling him in front of everyone. Subaru also did the right thing and apologized to Julius. He acknowledged that he was in the wrong and felt bad about what happened between them. But nevertheless, he still hated his guts. No surprise there. He caused Amelia to leave Subaru behind, so of course he hates his guts. When they got to the forest, Subaru made contact almost immediately with the witch's cult members, but he somehow gave them orders to do something else, and they obeyed. Then he walked further and met Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse was his usual creepy self and was happy to see Subaru. He then asked Subaru if he was the sin of pride, a question he had asked in the past as well. But when Betelgeuse checked his gospel, he found no record of Subaru and became wary of him. Subaru joked around and told him that he used his own gospel as a saucer, and it got messy. Betelgeuse didn't find this funny in the slightest and tried using his hands to catch Subaru, but he evaded it. Just then, two of the little troops came and blasted the lackeys into the ground. Betelgeuse was furious, and he turned to face Subaru, but Wilhelm came from behind and split him in two. After Felix confirmed he was dead, the little troops found his gospel, but they didn't even want to touch it, and neither would I. It looked like it had the coronavirus all over it. Subaru took it, regardless, in the hopes of deciphering it and finding out more about the cult. Subaru and the gang headed back to base camp and regrouped. The other teams had carried out their missions smoothly as well, and victory was in sight. But suddenly, Subaru saw the unseen hands again, and even though he signaled for people to duck, they still grabbed onto a couple of people and literally squeezed them to death. It dragged Subaru into the forest, and there he saw another one of Betelgeuse's lackeys, or as he called them, his fingers. This one had just about the same kind of powers as Betelgeuse and was even just as creepy. Subaru was about to be crushed by the hands, but suddenly, a spirit appeared out of nowhere. It distracted the finger long enough for them to ambush and kill him. When they headed back to base camp, Subaru was having regrets for bringing them all into his mess, but Wilhelm told him not to despair and to keep fighting. As they headed to the village to evacuate the residents and eventually Amelia, Felix told Subaru to go and make up with Julius. He told Felix that he did, but he knew that Subaru still had a little resentment toward Julius. So, Subaru went forward and began to patch things up, but suddenly, everywhere went cold, and Subaru saw a girl with a blue flower in hand. Who is she? Subaru dismounted his beast and searched for clues as to what could be going on. Then, suddenly, a flower grew vines and confined him. He figured out that it was an illusion since no flower like that existed, and so the flower got burnt, and he was free. When everything cleared, he saw that Julius had broken free from his illusion too, but a good number of the troops were still under it. Julius cast a spell to help everyone get out of its control, and then suddenly, the girl in the hooded cloak abducted Subaru and tried to get away. But Wilhelm wasn't about to let that happen. The girl revealed herself as Ram. Why the hell was she there? Subaru asked the same question to her. She told Subaru that the reason she came was because she thought he had changed masters. The letter sent to Amelia was apparently a blank one, which is a declaration of war in simpler terms. Subaru assured her that it was a mistake and told her about the plan to evacuate the villagers. When Subaru got to the village, he tried to be friendly and told them that they had to evacuate because of the Maybeasts, but the villagers were too frightened to listen to him. I don't get it. He's telling them to leave the village because they're in danger, yet their response is to stay because they're scared? Make it make sense, please. Subaru was confused about what to do, but Felix gave him a pat on the back and told him not to look down, and that as long as what he was doing was right, he shouldn't waver. Subaru took those words and was finally able to convince the villagers, and with a few extra words from Ram as well, the villagers quickly evacuated. Subaru heard from one of the children, Petra, that Amelia had come to the village yesterday to try and bring the villagers to the mansion for protection, but they stuck to their superstitions about half-elves and refused to listen to her. Subaru realized he might need some leverage to convince Amelia as well, so he asked Julius for help. Subaru also asked Julius about the spell he cast earlier, and Julius told him that he was a knight who used spirit arts. A spirit knight. Nice nickname. He also told Subaru that he had a great affinity towards spirits. As they headed to the mansion, Felix asked Subaru if he had patched things with Julius, and he said he was going to think about it later. He then asked Felix to come along with him, but Felix had a plan in motion. One of the merchants walked in as Subaru and Felix were talking, and Felix stunned him. Apparently, he noticed that one of the fingers had put a spell on the merchant, but it was a bit too late. The merchant had set things up with his allies, and the carriage blew up. When Subaru came to, there was chaos and fighting. Felix went to heal the injured, and Subaru and Julius went to help Wilhelm, who had been struck down by a self-destructing finger. Just as one was gone, another one popped up. For Pete's sake, how many fingers does this guy have? Subaru brought out the gospel and lured the finger away with it. He managed to kill her by using the beast dogs, but when he got to town, there was one left. Just as Subaru was about to fight it, Amelia appeared and gave it the beatdown of a lifetime. But just when things looked like they were finally over, Subaru felt a strange sensation and ran away. Julius and Felix followed him to the forest, but they were too late. Beetlejuice had taken over Subaru's body. Subaru told them to kill him, but Julius couldn't bring himself to do it. It was only after Felix used his power to immobilize Subaru that he was able to land the final blow. Subaru reset at a different point this time. It was just before they headed to the Roswell mansion. Subaru, now equipped with much more information, decided to calm down and analyze the situation better. He told them about the possibility of the Sin Archbishop possessing other members to elongate his life, and Julius mentioned something about it too. He told them that the best way to deal with the situation was to first kill off all the fingers, and then deal with the Sin Archbishop directly. Back at the mansion, Amelia was still having nightmares about what happened at the Capitol with Subaru. Puck came to greet her earlier than usual because he was worried about her. Amelia asked him what she could do in this situation, and Puck told her that she should do what she wanted, and that no matter what, he'd be on her side. Now that right there is a real one. Amelia went downstairs later that day to receive a visitor. It was Wilhelm. He came to rectify the mistake about the letter and inform her about the impending danger to the villagers. Amelia was concerned, but Wilhelm assured her about every question she asked, and even the ones she didn't ask. And with that, she agreed to his terms and ordered the villagers to be evacuated. When Amelia went into the village, the only carriage left was the one with the kids. She said there must have been a mistake, but Subaru came along and eased her nerves. He asked the kids what they wanted to do, and they ran up to Amelia to tell her they wanted to ride with her too. Amelia was filled with joy, but before she could thank Subaru, who she didn't even know it was, he had gone to handle other business. He intercepted the spy of the witch's cult and cut off his communication with the others. After saying their goodbyes at the village, Subaru began his plan. First, he went to meet Beetlejuice at his hideout. He pretended to be a devout follower, but when Beetlejuice asked him to show his gospel, he showed him the media used for communicating with the other followers. Beetlejuice was confused, but Subaru's ground dragon ran him over. He got up and started acting in his usual creepy way, saying he would kill Subaru, but Subaru took off. Shaking him off was a big pain because of those hands of his, but the tiny troops came to Subaru's rescue and blasted the lackeys away. Subaru continued forward and led Beetlejuice to an open area where he once killed himself. I don't know if this is Subaru's idea of being poetic or just dumb. Either way, now that they were in the clear, Julius jumped down to face Beetlejuice. He used a spell to link his mind with Subaru's, and with that, he was able to see the unseen hands. Beetlejuice was losing his mind and launched a full-scale attack. But with the help of Subaru, Julius cut through every single one of the unseen hands. Now he prepares to end it all. Julius was starting to have some trouble keeping up. The hands were moving fast, but he managed to keep them at bay with a few injuries. When they finally had him cornered, Beetlejuice pulled a Captain Ginyu and body-swapped with Subaru. This time, however, Subaru was prepared. He used his trick, and it made the witch's hands come out to meet Betelgeuse, but she rejected him and sent him back to his body. Betelgeuse was distraught and frustrated. Even with Julius's sword in his chest, he tried a last-ditch effort to take them with him, but he just ended up crushing himself with boulders. Their victory was short-lived, however, because Felix contacted them and told Subaru that there was a cargo of firestones in the cart that Emilia and the kids were in. Those firestones could easily blow up a small village if used well. Subaru was frustrated. All his hard work and effort were about to waste, but then Otto spoke up. He offered to take Subaru in exchange for a trade. Subaru agreed quickly, but how sick of a person can you be to ask for something like that given the situation at hand? That's crazy to me, honestly. Otto and Subaru rode through the forest, and Otto said he knew a shortcut. The shortcut was crazy, to say the least, but while it was working, they had something on their trail. It was Betelgeuse. He had come to try and steal Subaru's body again. This guy just loves pain. Subaru fought him off with the spirit Julius gave him, but it wasn't enough. So, with the blood on his hand, he wrote in the gospel and ended Betelgeuse's rampage. He hurried forward to meet Emilia and saw Wilhelm fighting off the lackeys. Wilhelm told him to keep moving, and he would clear a path, W-Mans. Otto used his divine blessing to see where Emilia was. As soon as Subaru got there, he jumped into the carriage like a badass. He froze a little when he saw Emilia, but soon after, he ripped the floorboards and took out the firestones, then hopped back on his dragon. But before he left, he turned back to Emilia and told her he loved her, then went off. Okay, I see you, Subaru. It's not the best timing, but still, that's some top-tier mid-battle riz. Subaru ran toward the tree where the white whale's corpse was. He threw the bomb in it and headed as far as he could get before it exploded. Emilia ran out to meet him. Subaru woke up and found his head on Emilia's lap. He was surprised and confused about what to say, so he asked about the outcome of the battle. Emilia told him his dragon was safe with Felix, and everyone else was all right. Once he got that out of the way, he laid the riz on Emilia heavy. She started crying, asking why he always saved her, and he told her he loved her like crazy. For every sentence she used to make herself look bad, Subaru had twice as many to make her feel even better. He told her that if she listed 100 reasons to hate herself, he'd list 2,000 of why he loved her. Then he raised her head and wiped her tears away. Subaru might, low-key, be a light-skinned black guy. Emilia was overflowing with joy. She never thought she'd see the day someone professed love to her. She thanked him for saving her. But of course, that's all this story is about after all. What do you think will happen in the years to come? Let us know in the comment section, and make sure to like and subscribe so you do not miss out on any of our daily updates.